He was anointed by God, but torn apart by lust. A king so obsessed with one woman's body, he shattered the authority of the most powerful religious institution in the world just to crawl into her bed. And when the church said no, he created his own. And then he lost his mind. Wives would die, friends would bleed, and England would never be the same. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how far one man went to feed his ego and how it drove him to madness. To understand the madness, we must begin with the myth. Young Henry Tudor was everything a Renaissance prince should be. Educated in theology, music, languages, and warfare, he was not meant to be king. That honor was destined for his older brother, Arthur. But when Arthur died unexpectedly, the throne, and Arthur's widow, Catherine of Aragon, passed to Henry. At just 17, Henry became king. He dazzled his court with jousts, feasts, and song. He was handsome, sporting auburn hair and broad shoulders. He was intelligent and charming. To his subjects, he wasn't just a ruler, he was a savior. Foreign dignitaries spoke of his radiance, his strength, and his seemingly boundless potential. He promoted scholars and humanists. His court was bursting with art, music, and invention. Henry was more than a king. He was a living embodiment of a new era. The Renaissance had arrived in England, and Henry was its beating heart. But beneath the glittering surface, something dangerous stirred. Henry had one obsession: legacy. And that legacy required one thing he didn't yet have: a male heir. What happens when a golden boy can't deliver the one thing he was born to do? Catherine of Aragon bore Henry multiple children, but only one survived: a daughter, Mary. This was unacceptable to Henry. He needed a son. A king needed to secure the Tudor dynasty. Without one, everything his father built could collapse. The Plantagenets had fallen due to civil war. Henry feared the same fate. He became increasingly anxious. Each failed pregnancy was a blow, not just to his marriage, but to his psyche. Then came Anne Boleyn. She was not the most beautiful woman at court, but she was magnetic, a master of charm and political intrigue. She refused to become Henry's mistress. She would only accept marriage. In doing so, she stoked a fire in him that turned into an inferno. Henry began petitioning Rome for an annulment. He argued that his marriage to Catherine was invalid because she had once been married to his brother. But the Pope was under the thumb of Catherine's nephew, the powerful Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. No annulment would come. Henry grew furious, so he broke with Rome. He passed the Act of Supremacy in 1534, declaring himself the head of the Church of England. It was one of the most seismic religious shifts in European history. And it wasn't for faith, it was for lust and legacy. Henry married Anne. She was crowned queen. But now, the expectations were sky high. She had to give him the son that Catherine couldn't. But fate, once again, had other plans. Anne gave birth in 1533. To a girl, Elizabeth, Henry was devastated. Though Elizabeth would grow into one of England's greatest monarchs, at the time she was a failure in Henry's eyes. Anne suffered several miscarriages after that. Rumors swirled that Henry was growing distant. Meanwhile, Anne's enemies at court plotted her downfall. In 1536, Anne was arrested. She was accused of adultery with multiple men, including her own brother. The evidence was flimsy at best, fabricated at worst. But it didn't matter. Henry needed her gone. She was tried and found guilty. On May 19th, she was executed by a French swordsman, specially brought in to make the death clean. Her last words were gracious. She never cursed the king. And barely a day after her death, Henry was engaged to Jane Seymour. But the blood didn't stop flowing. Sir Thomas More, Henry's friend, confidant, and one of Europe's most respected thinkers, refused to accept the king's supremacy over the church. Henry had him imprisoned and eventually executed. Those who did not bend to Henry's will were cut down. Mercy was a thing of the past. The king who once inspired love now ruled through fear. And his enemies? They were just beginning to multiply. By the way, if you're enjoying this dark unraveling of power, betrayal, and blood, hit the like button if you're hooked, subscribe if you're fascinated, and tap the bell so you never miss another descent into the shadows of the past. Jane Seymour seemed to be everything Anne Boleyn wasn't: quiet, obedient, traditional. In 1537, she gave Henry what he so desperately wanted: a son. Edward. England rejoiced. Henry finally had his heir. But the price was steep. Jane died of complications less than 2 weeks later. Her death devastated Henry. He mourned her sincerely. She was the only wife buried beside him. But grief hardened into cruelty. The man who once danced and jousted now brooded and raged. His court became a gallery of masks, courtiers smiling through gritted teeth, never knowing who might be next. Political purges swept the land. Men who once dined with the king were dragged through the streets to their deaths. Parliament became a tool for executions. Nobles whispered in corners, afraid that their ambitions might be mistaken for treason. And then came the fall, not of a minister or queen, but of the king himself. In 1536, Henry suffered a catastrophic jousting accident. He was thrown from his horse, which then landed on top of him. He was unconscious for hours. Many historians now believe this moment changed everything. He likely sustained a traumatic brain injury, something we would today recognize as a serious concussion or even frontal lobe damage. After the accident, his behavior worsened. He became erratic, violent, and increasingly unstable. He also developed a chronic leg ulcer that never healed. The wound stank, it oozed pus, it kept him from exercising. He became grossly overweight and likely suffered from diabetes. With his body failing, his paranoia spiraled. He married Anne of Cleves, but when she didn't please him physically, he had the marriage annulled. Catherine Howard came next, a teenager, energetic and playful, but soon she was accused of infidelity. The evidence? Circumstantial. But Henry believed it. She was executed. She screamed for mercy, but Henry watched without blinking. It was said that a darkness clouded him after that. He trusted no one, he barely left his chambers, and with each betrayal, real or imagined, the madness grew. By the time Catherine Parr became queen, Henry was a broken man. His legs were wrapped in bandages. His face was bloated. He lashed out at servants and bishops alike. But Catherine Parr was smart. She soothed his temper. She cared for his children. She survived. Barely. She once narrowly escaped arrest herself after debating theology with Henry. Had she not apologized quickly, she might have joined the others on the scaffold. Henry's final years were marked by increasing isolation. He trusted almost no one. Even his long-serving advisors fell out of favor. When he died in 1547, he was unrecognizable from the young prince who once captured Europe's imagination. He left behind a religiously divided nation, a court dripping with blood, and a legacy that would haunt his children, especially Mary and Elizabeth. But perhaps the most chilling part of Henry VIII's story is that his chaos didn't end with his death. It set the stage for generations of turmoil. Henry VIII is often remembered for his 6 wives, but to reduce him to that is to miss the true horror and the true tragedy. He was a man who could have been great, a patron of the arts, a reformer, a true Renaissance king. Instead, his name became synonymous with tyranny, vanity, and blood. He destroyed the very things he claimed to love. He ruled a nation, yes, but he never conquered his own demons. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into betrayal, madness, and murder, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss another tale from history's shadows. And if you want more royal scandals, watch the video on your screen next. We'll see you there.